Start the Steipler again from U'ma'od Niflasi. Kehilas Yaakov. That's where we're going to start from, okay? The analysis of the Ketzos of the position of Rabbi Avigdor Kohen Tzedek is that it's Kinyan Haguf L'Sha'a. There is a Kinyan Haguf L'Sha'a, which then automatically reverts. It automatically reverts. It's an absolute Kinyan L'Sha'a which automatically reverts. And the T'nai, the Masna, the T'nai Al-Manos Lahachzir is not really a T'nai technically in the Hilchas T'noim. It is rather, what is the key word? Remember the word yesterday? Not a T'nai, but a...
Shirayim.
Shiur. That's the word that has to be underlined and in your notes and...
Retention.
Correct. Very good. Very good. It's not a tonight, it's a shiur. You hold back, you retain certain aspects of ownership that limits the duration of the ba'alus, of the ownership, such that it automatically reverts. Fine. So asks the Steipler, the problem is that this would appear to be untenable as a working hypothesis, as an analysis, as an understanding of the shitta of Rabbi Avigdor Kohen Tzedek. Why? Because Rabbi Avigdor Kohen Tzedek himself then goes on to say the scenario which we saw in the previous Siman Chof Ches Se'iv Chof, that if the chosan receives a ring as a matana al-manos lahachzir and then is mekadesh a woman with stam, it's mekudeshes. Now we need to. That's where we got up to.
Right.
Okay, and those are the words of Rabbi Avigdor Kohen Tzedek, and because Ha'im al-Manos is Kamei Achshav, so the chosan takes ownership of this ring absolutely in perpetuity with a shiur, and he must give it back. And then what you have to do, the kala then is mekudeshes, but the kala needs to be persuaded to return it, whether he buys it back, whether he gets her to gift it back to him and then he gives it back. As long as it goes back, then as long as it does go back, then in retrospect, we absolutely have proper kiddushin. And we're going to pick up from 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 lines into that paragraph, U'ma'od Niflasi, towards the end of the line, Ad Kan L'Shoinai, it's an abbreviation, Ein Kof Lamed, Ad Kan L'Shoinai. That's the end of the tzitut, of the quote of Rabbi Avigdor Kohen Tzedek. Now the Steipler takes over. Focus. V'im noimad kol maton amnos lahachzir eino ela hakno l'shor. If you, says the Heilige Steipler, if you, the Ketzos, are right, that the analysis in Rabbi Avigdor Kohen Tzedek is that how does maton amnos lahachzir works, it is merely hakno l'shor, it is a temporary hakna, nimtza sheho isha lo hisigo ba'alus elo ad shas chazara. It follows, therefore, that the woman, what does she receive? She can only receive what the first guy had. Are you with us? No, you're not. Yes, but you're sorry. Are you with? Yeah, yeah, you got it. You with us? 12 lines down in U'ma'od Niflasi. Okay, let's go again. Ad Kan L'Shoinai. V'im noimar, if you're going to say the kol ha'maton amnos lahachzir ein ela hakno l'shor, like the Ketzos understands Rabbi Avigdor Kohen Tzedek, all it is being makne for a time-limited period. Nimtza therefore follows. Sheho isha lo hisigo ba'alus ela ad shas chazara. All she received was ba'alus of the item for the next hour, 2 hours, whatever it is. Imkein ma mahani. So how's it going to help that she gives it back? Sheyachzer v'yikne mimeno. Eino yochel liknois ma she'ein lo. He can't be kind of what she didn't have. V'harei shiur divrei Rabbi Avigdor Kohen Tzedek ukach. Rabbi Avigdor Kohen Tzedek therefore is saying, in other words, if she only gets what he had, he only has ba'alus for a certain amount of time, so she only received ba'alus for a certain amount of time. In other words, he has a maton al-manos lahachzir, so she can't have more than he has. Which is, you can't give a woman something that where you only have a certain amount of balus in this item, even assuming it is an ownership in the guf hachefetz, but it is of time limited duration. That's what matana manos lahachzir means. It's a kinyan haguf l'sha'ah, which then automatically reverts. That's very clear. So therefore he gives that to the woman. So he has been Makadasha with something which has a time-limited balus. If that is Matana Manos Lahachzir, how can she then be Makudeshes? If the Ktsais's analysis of Rabbi Vidya Tzedek is right. So says the Steipler, so what must it mean? V'harishir divrei Rabbi Vidya Zalhu kach. Kshenos nu lo kol mashe hisig b'matona manos lahachzir. When he gives her everything that he got with a matona manos lahachzir, lo domi lechalipin. It is not like chalipin. V'i mishum. So he gives her everything. He gives her everything. Ay v'i mishum detzricha lahachzir b'shvil t'na'oi. And if you're worried about the fact that she's going to have to give it back to him because of his tanai to return it, pirish. V'im kein have a kiddushin b'ta'os. And therefore, what would be the problem? The problem would be that it's false pretenses. She thinks at the moment when she receives that ring, what's going on in her mind?
He has complete balance.
He has complete balance, and now this is my ring forever. This is a ring I'm going to give over to my grandchildren, blah, 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 blah. This is mine. So you might say, well, it suffers a defect of kiddushin b'ta'os. If she would have known that you're only going to have this for 2 hours, maybe she would never have agreed. The fact that he doesn't say it's a matana manos lahachzir doesn't, and the fact that maybe that it doesn't look like chalipin, maybe loidomi lechalipin, maybe that doesn't matter. But we have a problem of kiddushin b'ta'os possibly. The fact that she needs to give it back because of his condition, pirish. Or because you might say the fact that she has to give it back actually does make it look like chalipin. If in an hour or two she has to give it back. So it is like chalipin. Therefore, Rabbi Vidya Tzedek answers, that he can acquire it back from her. V'hainu. If he acquires it back from her, there was no deception at all in when she gets the money. And it's not like chalipin at all. Why? Because she gives it back to him. So what were you going to say? It's not his. If you're going to tell me that it isn't really his forever, and therefore it is only hers for a short period of time, how is it going to help by him buying it back from her? That's not the problem. If it was never his forever, then it can't be hers forever. And therefore, you don't have a solution, you don't have a remedy by buying it back. At the end of the day, she received something that has to go back. That is matana manos lahachzir. So how can it be mekudeshes? How can you make if the Ktsais's analysis is right that it is a total hakna'ah in the guf hachefetz, but with a time limited duration? It has an expiry. It has an expiry. Whatever that expiry is, it's lizman. Whenever it is, it expires. That means she received a matana al manos lahachzir, and it's not going to help you. What is the remedy that Rabbi Vidya Tzedek is proposing? Buy it back. I'm not worried about the buying back. You gave her something which was not a proper kiddushin. It was either kiddushay tos, it was domi lechalipin. It's time bound. It's a matana al manos lahachzir. It's no good. Let me just finish this, please, and after the end of the paragraph. Elo al korchoch, mashma, says the Steipler, you must say to Dato Izal that al matana manos lahachzir, not like the Ktsos, is hakno al oilomis. Matana, the way matana manos lahachzir works, is that you give it to somebody else, and it's his forever. V'gam ho'isha zochso a oilomis. And she also, therefore, received it forever. She can only get what he got. He got says that the Steipler, the real understanding, and he's going to give me 2 minutes if I can do the next little paragraph as well, before we ask, just allow me to explain it, and then he is arguing on the Ktsois' understanding of Rav Avigdor Kohen Tzedek. He says the only way to understand Rav Avigdor Kohen Tzedek is as follows. Matana Manos Lahachzir is forever. It's forever. It's forever. There's a Tanai, but it's forever. It doesn't revert automatically. It does not revert automatically. Nobody says it reverts automatically. The Ktsois says that that's what Rav Avigdor Kohen Tzedek says. It says the Steipler, he doesn't say that, and he's going to reinterpret the words of Rav Avigdor Kohen Tzedek. It does not go back automatically. In other words, says the Steipler, it goes with the Ritva and the Rosh. That what? You need a Haknah back. It doesn't happen automatically. It is yours forever. There is a Tanai, you have to return it. Like the Ritva and the Rosh. And therefore, since he got it, Matana Manos Lahachzir, but doesn't hand it over as a Matana Manos Lahachzir, so when he actually gives it to her, he is giving it to her forever. Absolutely. But now he has a problem. In order to keep his Tanai, he now needs to go to her and say, we have a strange halachic loop going on over here. And therefore I'd like to ask you, could I buy it back from you? Could you gift it back to me? He can't force it. But if she doesn't and he doesn't return it, then retrospectively, the Tanai will cancel the whole, what he received to start with. Let him say, let's see it in his words. Elo al korchach mashma. Dedato izal, that matana manos lachzir is hakno al oilomis. V'gam ho'isha zochsa oilomis. She got something forever. Rak shehechrech kiyum atnai. The imperative of upholding the condition, not shiur. Tanai. You hear that? That's what's really going on over here. You've got to give it back. What's the problem? You have to give it back? No problem. It's your job now to persuade your new wife. Good luck with that, mate. That you've got to persuade her that the ring that you just gave her, she has to give it. She doesn't have to. You have to persuade her to sell it back, to give it back, whatever it is. Here we have a slight problem. The language of Rav Avigdor Kohen Tzedek, he acknowledges the difficulty in the language. Because the language of Rav Avigdor Kohen Tzedek was kinyan l'sha'ah. He has to deal with that. That's the next little paragraph. He says the Steipler, don't make it complicated. KISS. You ever heard that? It's a concept in management. Keep it simple, stupid. So it's a management principle. Yeah? Demisparish b'poshut. Dahainu. Shebipshutoi ein lo kinyan zeh elo l'shah. L'maisa. You're only going to have it for a short amount of time. It's a kinyan aguf. It's l'shah. Because in order to be Mekayim the Tanai, you will have to give it back. Not like the Ktsois understood, it automatically reverts, but you have to give it back. But for the time that you had it, it was absolutely yours. Dahainu shebapoyel, in practice, lemaisa, as we would say in yeshiva, shebapoyel ein lo kinyan zeh elo l'shah, u'b'metzius ein lo balis elo l'shah. In actuality, you're only going to end up having owned it for a short amount of time. For that 1 hour, he actually does have it. Now, that is basically all I want to take out of the Ktsois, out of the Steipler. Let's just quickly review this. And there is one more thing that we need to think about a little bit. So let's go over this. Says the Steipler that he feels that the Ktsois' position in the understanding of Rav Avigdor Kohen Tzedek, i.e. his usage of the word that it is a kinyan aguf l'shah, which the Ktsois used to extrapolate a whole new understanding, that it is a shiur in the baalus, that the original owner retains an aspect of ownership such that when the time period elapses, it automatically reverts to him. Says the Steipler that is not tenable as an analysis of really what Rav Avigdor Kohen Tzedek holds. And what's his proof? Primarily from this other halacha, which is also mentioned by Rav Avigdor Kohen Tzedek, which we have in Shulchan Aruch in the previous simon, that if a chosin receives it as a matana al manos lahachzir and then gives his mekadesh stam, The Rabbi Ken Tzedek says Mekudeshes, but v'yachzer. She has to give it. She has to, meaning the husband has to somehow persuade her to give it back. Says the Steipler, if it automatically reverts, if kinyan aguf l'shah means it's only that you only have the bailus for a certain amount of time, then and there's no shiur, and there is a shiur in the kinyan, then effectively, let's keep it simple. You have been mekadesh to a woman with a matana manos lahachzir. That's what you've done, because you can't be makadosh with more than you have. The fact that you deceived her, that's another story. You deceived her. Whichever way you look at it, either it's domi lechalipin because she's going to have to give it back in an hour, or it's kiddushin betos, she thought she was getting it forever and she wasn't. Whichever way you look, you're stuck. So, but Rabbi Ken Tzedek says, no, it's absolutely fine. The only way, says the Steipler, we can reconcile these two positions is by saying that actually, that's not pshat in matana manos lahachzir. Matana manos lahachzir is yes, it's a kinyan aguf. Yes, it's a kinyan aguf. It's an absolute kinyan aguf forever. But there is a t'nai. There's a t'nai that you have to return it, and yes, you need to be makneh it back. And now we can understand when you go to a woman. Our halach in Simon Chavtes, you go to a woman, you're mekadesh her with a matana manos lahachzir, it's no good. Either because whether you hold like the Rambam, whether you hold like Tosfos or the Rosh, it's domi lechalipin, she's not makna, data, chazal oika, whichever way you look at it, that doesn't work. But we have to differentiate. We have to say that the case over there, you receive it for matana manos lahachzir, and you're mekadesh her with its stam, that's fine. Why? Because when you receive it, you receive it, it's yours now. Totally yours. You then go and you're mekadesh her, she receives it forever. Total baalus forever. You now have a problem. And it's not, why is it not kiddushin tos? Because as far as the kiddushin is concerned, as far as what you gave her something which you have eternal rights over, and thus she has eternal rights over. And as far as the Ma'aseh Kiddushin is concerned, there's no chalipin here. You now have a problem, because if you do not mekayim your t'nai with this guy, retrospectively, none of this is going to work. That's a side issue. It's a side issue. One more thing, there's his son-in-law, which we're going to learn now in a minute. There's a concept in halacha, which is a very important one, and I'll say it to you, and you should write it down and remember it, is t'nai milsa achariti. T'nai, we're going to see that lashon in the Yashel Shlema soon. T'nai, yeah. Psst. Where's he gone? Hello? T'nai milsa achariti, meaning t'nai is something separate, something else. I was going to throw you. I've got everything I need. T'nai milsa achariti. T'nai is something different. It's something else. It's something separate. It's not integral to the Maisa. Do you hear that? In the Lomdus, you can have a Maisa with a T'nai, but the T'nai milsa achariti. So therefore, you hear that? So therefore, the Kiddushin was a perfectly good Kiddushin forever. I now have a problem. I've got to be Mekayim the T'nai. Therefore, I go to her, and hopefully I manage to successfully persuade her, for however I manage to persuade her, to please. She's under no duress to do so. She's under no compulsion. The halachic processes of that Kiddushin is valid, and it's valid forever. There's an external.
And that is disconnected from the object status, so to say.
Not just the object status, but the pu'ula, the status of the pu'ula. The Hariyat Mekudeshes Li I did with her was a perfectly valid Kiddushin, like any other Kiddushin under the chuppah. But there's an external. This would be the way to look at it. It's external, and that we come pretty much to the end of the Steipler. Yes, you've been waiting very patiently.
Isn't it necessary then, if we look at this, at the Tanai being disconnected from the pillar, but still he has to ask her to get it back somehow? But then, isn't it that if, as long as she is not persuaded to give it back, the Kiddushin is also not really like solid? But
not because of the Kiddushin. The defect will be that it will now transpire. Okay, let's talk that through. Good point. Yeah. What would be if for some reason she says no?
Right. What then?
When she says no, then what happens is then the defect becomes a defect in the Kiddushin, but not innately. It's remotely. It's contingent. Because it therefore follows, it's like being Mekadosh Begezel. That means that she was Mekadosh Begezel. He basically then just look up the halach of Shulchan Aruch of Mekadosh Begezel.
But then
that's Mekadosh Begezel. Well, let's have a look. Let's go back to, we didn't learn this. I wasn't going to learn this with you. So effectively, that's what it is. It therefore transpires that retrospectively, he was Mekadosh Begezel. So let's have a look. Yeah, that's a nice way to look at it. HaMekadosh is so Isha Begezel. Look at the beginning of Siman Chav Ches. Oy Begneva. Im Nisyashu Habalim V'noida Shekona Oisadova B'yiyush. So it depends. If you have Kinyonik Zela, Harizu Mekudeshes. V'im Lav Eina Mekudeshes. So it depends whether you have Kinyonik Zela on it or not.
What does Kinyonik Zela?
That's the whole sugya of when you steal something. At what point does it become yours? If there's shinoi, the whole perek meruba, right? Yiyush, shinoi maisa, shinoi rishus, all sorts of different kinyonim. There's kinyonim of gzela. So that would depend. But
probably there is.
There may be. The point is. The point is the Kiddushin per se does not suffer a defect.
Okay.
It's if he does not manage to persuade her to give it back, then that means his Tanai, if he's not Mekayim his Tanai, therefore the Matana was never a Matana, and therefore it just turns out retrospectively that he was Mekadosha with something that wasn't his. And it's like any other case under a chuppah where it later transpires that you do a kiddushin, and let's say the chosn said it was his, and the rav later, whoever finds out later, it actually wasn't his.
So
go and look at what the halacha is. But the defect of matana manos lahachzir in the kiddushin is irrelevant.
So then he would say, okay, it's the kiddushin, but he would probably like pay something back or something.
It depends on the halacha of Hamakadosh Begezel.
Over an Isra, okay, maybe.
Maybe, and maybe it would be valid, and maybe it wouldn't be. Go and look somewhere else, but it's got nothing to do with us. Nothing to do with what we are currently learning. Sorry?
What do you mean with valid?
I mean that you'd have to go and look. So let's say he was Mekadosh Begezel. Let's say it's now considered Gezel.
Yeah.
So go and look in Siman Chav Ches and see what's the halacha Mekadosh Begezel. We are learning Matana Manas Lahachzir. Zelo Sheyach. That's it.
Yeah, okay, but then the question is if the Kiddushin is valid with the Matana Manas Lahachzir.
No, it isn't. No, that's exactly the point. Kiddushin is not valid with Matana Manas Lahachzir. We're learning here in Siman.
No, in the case of him getting it from someone else and giving them it.
So it depends.
So if we ask the question on that, if it's valid or not.
So the answer is, if you're Makayim the Tanai and get it back, then it's Mekudeshes, and if not, it's not Mekudeshes. But the reason it's not Mekudeshes is not because it's Matana Manos Lahachzir. The Kiddushin wasn't Matana Manos Lahachzir. His receival of the ring was Matana Manos Lahachzir.
No, I understand. Okay. I'm saying.
When we discuss,
if it's in the case of him, of course, not doing Almanach, how say he just receive it?
Yes.
Yeah. But if he does it, and let's say it's Gezel, then we should look.
Then look in Gezel. Have a look in Gezel.
Okay, but then,
we haven't learned that. It's not. In other words, we are learning the halachas at the moment in Siman Chav Tes of a man who is mekadesh a woman and goes to and says Hariyat mekudeshesly with matana manos lahachzir.
But the necessity is that if he doesn't get it back, it should be Gezel, no?
Yeah, it could well be.
Yes,
so then have a look.
Inevitable that it's Gezel in the case in this case. So then we have to look up the halacha.
Of course, we have to look up, but we look up a different halacha. We look at the halacha of Gezel.
Completely connected to this topic.
Which is halacha, but it's halacha of Gezel.
No.
We are. One second. Let me have this. I have a sense this is an important conversation. We have two statements by the same person, Rabbi Avigdor Kohen Tzedek. Okay? Mm-hmm. The Kutzais gave an analysis of one. The Steipler says that if you take both of his statements and you put them together, you will see that the analysis of the Kutzais in the second statement is not tenable. The analysis of the Kutzais of the opinion of Rabbi Avigdor Kohen Tzedek, fundamentally to understand how Maton al Manos Lahachzir works, is incorrect. That's all he's saying. That is what we're discussing here. Nobody's arguing with the halacha. The halachas are very clear. Let me just, if I can just finish answering it. So the halacha is very clear. Rabbi Avigdor Kohen Tzedek, and indeed the Shulchan Aruch, we have two halachas. The halacha that we're learning is, a man goes up to a woman and says, Hariyat mekudeshes li amanos, that you give it back to me, eina mekudeshes. We have another halacha, if a man receives the ring, amanos and gives it to a stam, it is mekudeshes. Right. Okay? The Kutzos tries to utilize Rabbi Avigdor Kohen Tzedek's, the words that he uses of Kinyan, Haguf, L'Shor, to establish a different understanding of the concept of how Matana Almanos Lahachzir works, and therefore the defect in Simon Chavtes, says the Steipler, if you apply that, it does not work, because then you have no way of explaining the other halach of Rabbi Avigdor Kohen Tzedek. It just simply doesn't work. There's no way that you can have the Ketzosa's understanding of why, if a man is Mekadosh Almanos, Matana Almanos Lahachzir, why it doesn't work, and at the same time say that if he receives it, Matana Almanos Lahachzir, it's Mekadosh Stam, that it is Mekudeshes. It should not work. It doesn't work. And since they do, so therefore we re-examine, says the Steipler, have a different understanding of how Matana Almanos, how the mechanism of Matana Almanos Lahachzir works, and now we can understand it all. That's all we've done.
Can I now?
No, let me go on. Daniel's bursting here. What do you think?
I think that Gabi is right, that it's with the information of Gazlos, it's very relevant.
Of course.
Because,
Go on.
Because the Steipler's disproof of the choice, yes, of Choice's understanding of
Tzedek,
is based on an assumption
that
you can't give more to somebody else which you initially have.
Right.
However, yes, the case of Gezel is a case where you give over more than you have.
Definitely more.
Yes.
Right.
So the assumption of the Steipler is therefore destroyed, of which he bases. The assumption of the Steipler, you can't give over more than you have.
That's part of what he said. That's not everything.
Yeah, but that's his main. That's his.
And you also have Kiddushei Tos.
Yes. So.
Okay, so leaving. Okay, that's not the totality of it. I think you've missed out something. I understand what you're saying. I think you've missed out Kiddushei Tos. But I think you've missed something out.
Maybe I understand.
Let me explain.
Yeah.
Kiddushei Tos. Think about the Kiddushei Tos element. If the Ketzos is right, this that he gave over to her has an expiry. It has an expiry. If Matana, the way the Ketzos understands, let's call it, for argument's sake, let's call it 2 hours. It doesn't really matter, right? 2 hours. So he receives this there's a shiur in the Kinyan, which will automatically expire. No hakna is required back. Well, first of all, if I'm not mistaken, the Loshon, just going back to the Loshon of Rabbi Avigdor Kohen Tzedek, he says, Yachzor v'yikne mimeno v'yachzor v'kaim t'noi. So first of all, he says, you have to be, the man has to buy it back from her, be koina it back from her. Why? It just will automatically revert back to the original owner.
No.
Why not? Because that's what Matana Almanos Lahachzir means, according to the Ketzos.
No, I disagree.
Because she has to, like, in the sense of...
Why? Why did you say that?
Even... Because the only reason why he has to buy it back is because he has the commandment not to steal.
We don't need to buy it back. It goes back automatically.
Yes, I understand. That's the point. His thing, yes.
Yeah.
His possession, yes, expires.
Yeah.
But her possession does not.
How do you know? He can't. How can he give her more than he's got?
That's exactly the point. He can give more than he got by stealing.
But if you mekadosh begezel, it's not mekudeshes.
We just said that this is mekudeshes.
No, I didn't say. No. Have you learned the halacha of mekadosh begezel?
No.
But
that's what I
understand.
If you mekadosh begezel and you make a proper gezel.
No, if there are kinyonik zela. So
yes.
We don't know in this case whether there were or weren't kinyonik zela.
So let's say there was kinyonik zela.
Let's say you don't know that.
So, yes.
And what about kiddushei tos? Okay, let's assume. What about kiddushei tos?
So
what about kiddushei tos?
So it doesn't. So according to my logic, yes. Well, I understand it currently.
Why is it not? Why did he not deceive her?
Because he didn't. He didn't, because she gets the thing forever, and he intends to give it for her to end forever.
Who does the act of stealing, by the way?
He alone.
It's not hers forever.
It is.
She has to give it back.
No. It's his obligation.
So then you one second, you're going now deep. You're doing two things here. You're assuming there was kinyonim, which we don't know that there was. You This is, remember, this is universal. It doesn't say, nowhere does it say, nowhere does Rabbi Avigdor Kohen Tzedek say, so then there's something missing. He should have said there should be kinyon gzela here.
Okay.
He doesn't mention the word gezel anywhere. The word gezel isn't mentioned. He is focusing on matana manos lahachzir, and he is somehow assuming that on the basis of from the perspective of the matana manos lahachzir sugya, it's all fine. The only thing we need to do is you have to be koine it back.
Yeah.
It doesn't suffer any other defect.
Because of the towers, because of the error. Because
What was so now?
My question is like we said before that what would be the difference between it reverts back from her to him or he buys it back? In the sense that was what we were speaking about the Tawud. Where's the mistake? Deception. He deceived her. So the deception would be if he would give her the thing without.
He didn't say anything. He didn't say anything.
Exactly. Without saying anything.
So he's deceived her.
So the deceiving is so to speak coming into place as long as he's not saying to her, "Oh, by the way, we have this halachic lube. I have to buy it back." Right.
So at the moment of kiddushin, she thinks she's getting a ring now forever.
Exactly.
She isn't.
Exactly.
That's a toss.
That's a toss.
But so then why is it good?
So
why is it mekudeshes? So why is it mekudeshes then? The halach is mekudeshes. You just said it's kiddushin toss. So how is it mekudeshes?
It's only toss.
Yes.
If he doesn't say anything and it reverts back automatically.
No. What? No. Where's your logic there? If I go up to a woman, rega. Forget this. You go up to a woman and I say, Hariyat Mukadesh li b'topazu.
Yeah.
And for some reason, it then turns out 2 hours later, the bailiffs come knocking on her door, whatever it is.
Okay.
And she is obligated to give it back.
Yeah.
That means I deceived her. She thought she was getting a ring forever. She wasn't. She thought, he's been kind to me with kesef, I'm getting forever. It wasn't. You've deceived her. Forget gezel, forget anything. It's Kiddushin Tos.
In any case.
In any case. But yet this works. How? That's the problem. Now you, yes.
But
okay,
No.
So,
No.
I think
It works.
I'm attacking.
It doesn't. Kiddushin Tos doesn't work.
No, but there's a difference. If he so, I'm so sorry. If he goes, if the.
Oh, you think it through. Let me go. Daniel's getting all agitated. Go on. No.
If I would take from Gabi,
yes.
If some money, or he would give me some money on Lahachzir.
Yes.
And then we make a business deal. Yes. We make a business deal. I'm buying for you the Shulchan Aruch. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
But
don't use money. Money's a bad example because milva lo hitzon it. No, money's meant to be spent. It's an item.
Okay.
We're talking about an item.
No, Kobe gave Alman Lahachzir and I gave to him.
Did you hear what I said? Don't talk about money.
Yeah.
Because money is a loan and it's meant to be. We're talking about an item, a ring. Go on.
We have to.
No. Give him a chance. Go on.
Okay. If somebody would coerce Gabi in a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
Yes. And take his valuable ring. Yes. To use for a Ponzi scheme. Yes. And never intends to give it back.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, he gave it for Al-Mahafin Hasbi, but however, the guy is a Gazlan. Yeah. The guy's a Gazlan. And then he uses this ring to.
So it was we're talking about matana.
Yes.
Matana. Somebody gives him a gift and says, "I want it back."
Yes.
Why? Just keep it simple.
Yes.
He gives him a gift. He says, "It's yours."
Yeah.
But I want it back.
Yes.
After tomorrow, I want it back.
Yes.
But for today, it's yours.
Yes. The person who receives the ring. Yes. He's a thief. Yes, and he's never intending to give it back.
Okay.
Yeah. He's never intending to give it back. Yes, and even though he should, politely should. Yes. And then he does with the ring. He sells it, or he sells it and makes some money out of it. Yes.
Yes.
So, obviously, then the Gabi will take the Gazlan to court, whatever.
Okay.
But the sale between the Gazlan and the whatever gold seller is a violent sale. No?
What is your proof for that?
I'm asking.
That's my focus. So that is where we're going to come to tomorrow now. It's not going to be tomorrow. It won't even be next week because I'm away Monday.
So maybe
Tuesday,
because
Wednesday.
usually.
So you are. If I could.
Yeah, because in the case of the Mishnah, for example, if Gabi would give a sheep and the thief ate the sheep, for example, yes, and he has to pay more, but basically he has to pay more, etc. But or he sold the sheep, then he has to pay whatever. He has to pay additional penalty, but usually it's about, as far as understood, it's
Not so simple. That's what we're going to have to see.
So therefore, I'm still at the point that I think one can give more than one has through stealing, yes, and that there's a possibility to give more than
And
one
Kiddushi
has.
Tos, how have you addressed Kiddushi Tos? Even assuming you're right, which you may be according to some Rishonim.
Yes.
Let's say.
And I
even
think-
assuming you're
yes.
right. Why is there no Kiddushi Tos?
Because the part, yes, where he's stealing, yes, is between the one from he's stealing from.
No, let's talk about Kiddushin, please.
Yes.
You stand under a chuppah and you give a woman a ring, and the absolute understanding of all parties, well, besides for him, is I'm giving this to you. It's yours forever.
Yes.
Forever.
So she thinks that, and he thinks it too.
Let's assume so. But Lemaisa,
If both
he was.
parties think I'm giving you this ring and this is ring forever yours,
But he isn't. But he isn't giving it to her forever
Right.
because he can't. Let's assume he can't.
He can't think.
Let's
Why he
assume
can't?
he can't
He can't-
because he has to give it
He
back.
can't think.
Well,
in
he
his
has,
mind.
but-
Because he has to give it back, and if he doesn't give it back,
He's
that means
deceiving
Lemafreya, it was never his, and it's Gesel. So he has no.
fine. So maybe so. No, it's
But we're
yes,
looking-
so what?
So therefore, you go to this woman. Okay, here's the thing. You go to this woman and say, look, you should know that this, full disclosure here,
Yeah.
this ring, I have it as a gift from Chaim Yankel. I have to give it back to him tomorrow. But Harayat Mekudesh Liba Tabazu, certainly not.
No.
Certainly not, because then he's been Mekadesh with Matana Amnos Lahazir.
Right.
And then so you're stuck.
No,
But-
I disagree.
Okay, so Matana Amnos Lahazir, Rega. You
That's-
Mekadesh a woman with a Matana Amnos Lahazir, it doesn't work. That's for sure. We know that.
Yes.
Right.
So I'm saying, let's make it. He is a gangster. Okay. He's all money. He's stealing. Like this is his job. Yes. All his income is he is stealing. He's a gun.
And then he deceives her
No,
when he
he
gives her the
doesn't.
ring. He does, he deceives her. He tells her, this is mine, lie, and
Yeah.
it's going to be yours forever, lie. And on that basis, she agrees. He's deceived her, and therefore she will not, the whole thing is based on deception, and Kiddushin Tos doesn't work. It just doesn't, it's not valid, it can't be a valid Kiddushin. We're not just talking about ownership here. We're trying to effect, remember here, this is not in Choshen Mishpat, this is in Even Ezer. Now the two intersect. Of course, the two intersect, and ownership is part of it. But here's another example. Harayat Mekudeshes Lial Manos Shani Tzadik Gomor. Famous case, right? The Gemara. Famous case.
Okay.
Gemara and Psachim and Kiddushin. Harayat Mekudeshes Lial Manos Shani Tzadik Gomor. And he's a Rosha. So the halacha is, it's Sophic Mekudeshes because it says maybe he did tshuva. But if he hadn't done tshuva, is she Mekudeshes? No, because it's deception. Because you have told her one thing, and the reality is different. And only on the basis of the reality, as given over to her, was she makna herself.
Right.
And therefore, with Gezel, with Kiddushei Tos, when he's giving her something, and the standard assumption, because it always is, that this is going to be my ring now forever. And it's not going to be her ring forever, because in a few hours the bailiffs will come knocking at the door. Whatever will happen, she's going to have to give it back. She has no choice but to give it back. And had she known that, she would never have agreed. Therefore, the Kiddushin is not valid, irrespective of whether she ends up holding on to the ring. That's the point. That's the Nakuda.
So
Yes.
how the question, which I perceive now, is how can we?
I have a pro- I have a-
how
One second,
can,
you
how
have
can
a
we
chance.
prevent the towels? Right. In this scenario, how could it be in any case that?
Maybe we can't.
Right. So we're looking for maybe a possibility. So if we want to achieve a outcome which doesn't involve any towels
Yes.
in this situation
Yes.
for her,
Yes.
we maybe could say that that there's two different states. So he gets the ring
Mm-hmm.
he takes the ring and says with his full ownership.
Yeah.
We assume he has in this
Yeah, and-
moment
yeah.
full ownership.
Yes.
And says
At the moment, yeah.
Mekadesh me.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we say, okay, so at this point, still so far so good.
Let's
So,
say.
Okay, let's say. And then
Or maybe not. If we say it's Kiddushin Tos, then at that point it's no good.
right.
If it suffers, go on.
okay. So then he goes. So what she thinks now,
Yeah.
her perception is everything is like normal.
Yeah.
Completely standard condition.
Correct. Because she doesn't know. Because
He doesn't know.
Because he's cheated her.
He knows, right? So
Yeah.
his problem is now the only way how she can continue knowing or thinking that this is valid Kiddushin, and him also being alright with all the circumstances, would be to say, okay, I can be sure that if I ask her to sell it to me or give it back in any way, then everything should be fine. The loop would be closed with the one who gave him להחזיר.
You can't know that at that point in time.
Okay.
So it's a suffix. So
But then he then
I'm listening.
as long as he goes, there's a suffix. Of course, we can never know.
But the Shulchan Aruch says Harei Mekudeshes. It doesn't say suffix. Hanoisen chaveiroi matana almanos lachziroi v'hola hamakabel v'kiddush ba'isha harei zu mekudeshes.
Right. Okay, but there's still a towels then. Right.
That's the question.
So then, right. Okay, but
and there's no limitations on this case. There are no limitations in all cases. Harei zu mekudeshes.
Okay, but then
why is it not kiddush tos? If says the Steipler, if the Kseisen's understanding is correct. Just a second. Okay, I'm glad we're getting into it.
Right. So
we're getting into it.
So then he has two different. Is there like? That's the question now. Is there two different outcomes that either it reverts back or he buys it up, or only one? We can only assume one. In the sense of.
So the Steipler, the Ksei says it automatically goes back.
Right. But if
says the Steipler, if it automatically goes back,
right,
then
you don't have value.
Yeah, which you can attack it from a number of different angles, and one of your angles would depend on what the halacha is by Mekadosh Begezel, admittedly, but or Kiddushei Tos, it's not tenable to say Harizim Mekadeshes. If that is the analysis of how Matana Manos Lahachzir works. However, if you say Matana Manos Lahachzir works, that really it's balus forever. It's a balus forever. So the moment that he gave it to her, it was hers forever, and he had the right to do that. He actually did have the right to do that. Now, tomorrow, a new thing kicks in, which is, there is a condition. I mean, by the way, what would be if the condition had nothing to do with the money? What would be if the condition was on the Tanai, a Tanai that you have to jump up and down 10 times the next day, and he doesn't do that? If he doesn't do that, then it was never his, and she was not Mekudeshes, even though the defect, it's external. That's the point.
Right.
It happens to be in the money that you understand.
That's the Tanai.
And this is what the Steipler is trying to say. Okay, we've got more to unpack.